It was really by chance how everything began. A simple email from a community developer to our principal telling us that they had named a park in our honor and asking if we would be interested in celebrating it. The journey for my capstone work was cast. My memory of this community since my childhood has always been one of the military base. There were fences around it, and it was just a place not open to discovery. It had a purpose. Since 1911, this place has served as a permanent base for the West in our Canadian military history. But as we know, time has the power to change most spaces and places, and this neighborhood is no different. With this lesson, I felt that it was now my time to discover the stories that were once told in place by taking a group of explorers into the field to discover it all. History lived right within our community, and it was time to regain that sense of story of place with my students. So we went outside to connect with community and to map that story. My entry point into the lesson was to share the work of Ali DeGraff, a Nat Geo explorer, with the class so that they could be exposed to the practice of participatory mapping. Our group explored the geo story that was created for her work in the Caribbean. It was important through the work to have the students uncover the story that touched on geography, map creation, historical heritage, ecological heritage, and bringing maps to people to share the message of preservation, moving history forward. Then I rerouted us to a very local example. We explored the roots of the land and discovered the system that the province and city have created to protect history and to plan and develop neighborhoods. We viewed historic aerial photos and maps that depicted the property, and we also contrasted that with present photos and maps, and then we looked at the developer's design for the future. Students were then asked to observe and collect data as we moved our learning into the community, documenting all of the historic properties. Students were encouraged to document with many pictures as we made the walk around Curry. The monument parks were of interest to the students as they were beautifully integrated into the natural and human environment of Curry. Upon completion of the walking fieldwork, students were asked to recreate and personalize a tour using the Google Tour Builder and to share their work with others to tell the story of history in our neighborhood. By learning this way, I wanted to inspire in them the desire to explore places and to uncover stories and histories that are found everywhere. The explorers' curiosity helped them to gain a greater awareness for the community outside their front door and the issues associated with dealing appropriately with historical buildings and redevelopment. Fieldwork rooted the lesson in adventure, and students loved finding the next locations on the maps. Students became storytellers of the data that they had collected. By transferring the data into the Google Tour Builder, students were able to digitally communicate their work to others. They needed to reconsider and to consider the work of others in order to tell the final story of that community. We engaged with Mary from Canada Lands to learn more about the space, and in doing so, we began a relationship with them that may include future trips for students, as well as other potential partnerships, including an urban beehive project, a public art installation designed by our students at the school, and a celebration for the park in the area that had already been designated Bishop Carroll Walk in honor of our school. The collaborative group initiative showed the students the power of collaboration on a project of this nature in community. Throughout this investigative discovery, students were able to understand what community and culture once represented, where the needs of community changed, and how the historic redevelopment was necessary to let the story of that community live on for future generations to know the story of the Forces Base and what it meant for the community at a local, regional, as well as a global level. In chatting with the students post-investigation, I was excited by some of the responses. Ben said, "Exploring into communities like this is like doing a puzzle, but you never really know how the puzzle looked to begin with. But getting out into the field gives you a better sense of what may have been." Another student, Noah, said, "Exploring into the outside world gives you a better sense of history, and stories come alive beyond the pages of a book. Just a deeper appreciation for place and surroundings." Another student, Amelia, connected her tour to her grandpa's history as he served in that same military as a young man, and she found his old service pictures and included that in our tour map. The most obvious area of alignment for social studies is the human journey. However, the changing planet is so important to try and bring into all lessons because of its impact on the human journey going forward. It's what happens in the human journey that impacts the changing planet as well as the wildlife and the wild places, but also vice versa. I think that if we are mindful with lessons, it shouldn't be too much of a shift in practice to incorporate in most content at the high school level. When students are taught to recognize the connection of human and natural worlds, I think that explorer lens may be used by them in everything that they continue to learn. In the end, my teaching mission continues to change just as I do, and that is to guide students in discovering how researching and exploring the world can assist them in learning about themselves and others, and to create in them an empathy towards how interconnected the world is and how the connection to nature and community mutually benefits humankind everywhere.